Hello again. I'm Trish Triumpho Sullivan, and we're here to talk about, once again, art history. This is ART1A, and we're in lecture number 5, and we're going to ask the questions why? What questions do we ask as art historians? What do art historians want to know? How do they discover the things? What questions do they ask to discover important things about a work of art? So whoops, where'd I lost my wiper. There we go. There's my wiper. Gotta wipe this board down so we can start asking those questions. So let's just talk really quickly about art in general, because when we're learning about art history, we're learning about just not the history of art, but the history of the world. And it gives us a different way of seeing, a different perspective. In fact, we can often see things from a variety of different perspectives when we're studying art history. We see different and very diverse cultures, and how one culture views something may be very different from how another culture views it. So art historians ask a lot of questions. And we will be too. We'll be asking questions and answering them as well. So one of the first questions that art historians ask is, and it's a real easy, how old is it? So how old is that piece of art? All right, this is kind of a basic first step. Where did it come from? And so the first step is this. It's called chronology. And we're basically, all that means is we're dating the object, dating the work of art. So we're finding out when it was made. So there's several ways that the art historians do that. One of the first ways is physical evidence, right? They look at what the physical evidence has to say. And physical evidence is basically what's there physically, what is it? What does it look like? Is it a painting? Is it a sculpture? What materials were used? All those kind of physical things we can look at. Documentary evidence. Is there any documents that we can find? Whoops. Documentary evidence. So that's like, is there anything written about it? Were there letters? Was there some record of it somewhere, right? So we're looking for documents. Internal. What does the artwork itself have to say? So internal evidence, like we're looking at the artwork itself. What does it have to say? And then finally, stylistic. Stylistic evidence. So those are the 4 types of evidence we're looking for when we're trying to figure out the chronology, right? The dating how old it is, figuring out how old it is. It's kind of like being a detective, So that kind of makes it a little bit fun. So we're figuring things out when we're art historians. How old is it? Is the very first question we ask. The next question that we like to ask is, what is its style? And I'm not going to write what is again, but we'll just put style down here because we want to know what style it is. So what does that mean? What does style mean? Well, it's one of the key elements in dating a work of art, right? And finding out the information about it. I guess I should say, not just dating, but so we look at several things when we're looking at what style it is. And that the first thing we look at is what period it was made. What period in history is it from, right? And what that means is the time it was made. You know, what was the time? What time was it? It's 5 o'clock. No, I'm kidding. So what was the time? The next thing we look at is regional style. Okay, what region? And what that means is, where was it made? What region? Was it made in Europe? Was it made in China? Or also what region within a country, say? In other words, a style in Florida might be very different from a style in California, right? We're a whole nation apart. So it could be, it could make a very big difference as to where it was made, right? So the region is very important. And finally, personal style, right? Right, so personal style has to do with the artist's personal style. And what that basically means is everyone has their own kind of look that with every artist has a different way of doing things, a different kind of technique that they use, their own personal style. And you know, this isn't exclusive. This could change. Something like this could change over time. In other words, what someone does when they're first starting out as an artist may look very different from what they're doing as an old, you know, after many years of experience, old age, right? So none of these are exclusive. All of them may factor into the history and the style, like what period, the regional style, the personal style. So they're not mutually exclusive. They can all, you know, all be part of what they do. The next thing that we ask, as in art history, to try and find out more about an artwork, is what is the subject? So what is the subject? The subject matter is very important, right? Is it a still life? Right? So is it just some objects on a table? That this might tell us a little bit about the artwork. Is it a portrait? Is it a landscape? You know, what did the artist paint or create? You know, what was it? And also we ask a few other questions about that. And because the subject can also have a lot more meaning than just what we see with our eyes. There could be other things kind of hidden in the painting. A lot of artists use what they call iconography. Oops. Try and get go. Well. Okay, so iconography, put a little eye there so you can see what that is basically kind of using symbols. Right? So for instance, a skull might mean death or mortality. A dog in a painting might mean loyalty, right? They might have certain meanings that would be considered like an icon that everyone kind of knows the meaning of it in a way, right? So that the artist might put clues in about the subject from that. They might use symbols to tell us about their subject. In other words, if the person was a Christian, they might be wearing a cross, right? So we have there might be symbols involved, and figures may have symbols or attributes, you know, kind of put to them as well. And so we ask a lot about the subject because it has a lot to do with the artwork itself, no matter what the artwork is. So the subject is very important. And then I think finally we want to know who paid for it. This is pretty important when we're looking at our history as well. you know, who paid for it can tell us a lot about the painting, why it was painted, who it was painted for, what was the purpose of it, right? Because of who paid for it. So who paid? Was it the artist? Was it just a passion that the artist had, right? Did the artist just say, I just wanted to create this work because I'm just inspired for it, right? I mean, that could be. A lot of artists have done that over the years. Was it a patron? Patrons are very important in the art, in art. And we don't think of it that much now, but at one point, that was pretty much how artists lived. They had someone who decided they wanted to just pay this person to work, to paint. Was it a religion? Oops, I spelled it wrong. Maybe not. Anyway. So was it a religion that paid for it? Because that might make a big difference in why it was made or who it was made for, right? Was it a government? Right. That is also a really important thing. Could it have been just a private individual? You know, someone just hired the painter or the artist to do a portrait of their loved one, right? Could it just be an individual? So these are all really important questions that art historians ask. You know, they want to know, what was the style, who paid for it, who made it, right? What is the subject? What's its style? These are the very important things that art historians ask, and these are all the questions that we'll be asking when we're discussing art. So when we're looking at art, those are the ones we want to know. When was it made? Who made it? What was the style? What was the region? What's the period, right? Who was it? Who paid for it? So those are the questions we're asking, and we'll be answering them in class. See you soon.